5 long years in the Civil War. Spent my last 5 nights with an Indian squaw. Covered in dirt, my body stank from stem to stern, and my hair was lank. But that Indian squaw was pure lust. You ever seen an Indian bite the dust? Returning to my story for a story to tell. I'm in a saloon, I'm hot and I smell. In burst the blacksmith, this is what he said. Some stranger full of marshal, full of lead. Others were frightened, looked somewhere to hide. But I'm a man, I took a walk outside. The marshal was lying in a pool of mud, and sure enough, he was covered in blood. I said, "Hey, Marshal, is there something I can do?" He said, "No, son, but there's something I'll do for you." I could see there was a word on the tip of his tongue, though he shot pretty bad through heart and lung. Still he managed to say as he breathed his last, "You'll find it buried at Coyote Pass."
Hey ho, the West needed women, there was drinking to do, and the women were sinning. There's a pot of gold over every hill, and all you had to do was be the first to kill.
Now rumor had it that the marshal had been acquainted with Jesse, James and his men. Old timers say they were in cahoots, and it was up to the marshal to stash the loot. Well, the law caught up with Jesse and his men, 7 for 1 and the original 10. Opportunely away in Cripple Creek, he was cunning and quick with a scar on his cheek. Now the blackie didn't rightly recall much about the man who shot the marshal, but Miss Ellie Oakes, whose door was ajar, said he was cunning and quick and his cheek was a scar. Now I had a hunch, but I couldn't be sure. The man Miss Ellie seen through the open door was probably the man opportunely away from Jess's gang on that fateful day. So he'd come back just to get rid of the marshal who knew where the loot was hid. Being very successful, he'd cut by half numbers who knew about Coyote Pass, or so he thought.
Hey ho, the West needed women, there was drinking to do, and the women were sinning. There's a pot of gold over every hill, all you had to do was be the first to kill.
I got myself a map and a Colt 44, paid one last visit to the Indian squaw. Then it was off to the church to the Shannon Sioux. Didn't like the chance that I'd get through. Being with Custer at Wounded Knee, there was one survivor, and that was me. The Alamo I got clean away, though Crockett and Bowie elect to stay. No, I'm not a coward, they to come too, if the Spanish been as good as you know who. I suppose you only go when your number's up, and so far it had a run of good luck. But you never know how long your luck'll last, especially when you're headed up to Coyote Pass.
Hey ho, the West needed women, there was drinking to do, and the women were sinning. There's a pot of gold over every hill, and all you had to do was be the first to kill.
2 long weeks I was glued to my saddle, crossed mountain, stream, and then I had to paddle along treacherous rapids in my birch canoe, observed I suspected by the Shannon Sioux. Then one day while crossing a plain, I saw dust in the distance from a wagon train, being chased by Comanche braves and heading for the cover of some nearby caves. Knew they had no chance unless I intervened, 'cause Comanches fight dirty and settlers fight clean. Getting late and the sun was starting to set, so I turned my horse and bowed my head in respect. Made good time with the Indians occupied, and thanked the Lord for the chance he supplied. Even I made camp in the long tall grass. Tomorrow I should reach Coyote Pass.
Hey ho, the West needed women, there was drinking to do, and the women were sinning. There's a pot of gold over every hill, and all you had to do was be the first to kill.
During the evening, I awoke from my sleep when I heard a redskin trying to creep up on me. Didn't break no twigs, but if I got one thing, you can smell an Injun like you can smell a ding. I slit his throat, didn't make a sound. I sent him to the happy hunting ground. got up bright and early and rustled up the stew. Despite the odds, I nearly made it through. Then just as I was turning a Coyote Pass, my horse reared up and threw me on my ass. Tried to move, but my leg was broke. I collapsed in pain and suddenly awoke to the sound a cowboy never forgets. The hiss of a rattle, some call it death. Instantly became patently clear what the occurrence had been that made my horse rear. I'd come a long way, but it seemed, alas, I was doomed to die this side of Coyote Pass.
Hey ho, the West needed winning, there was drinking to do, and the women were sinning. There's a pot of gold over every hill. All you had to do was be the first to kill.
Snake reared back, ready to bite. My gun had come off the floor and rolled clean out of sight. Sweat glistened my brow, there's a thump in my head. A shot, a jerk, and the snake fell dead. Well, glory be. Raised my eyes in homage to the Lord, but it wasn't him behind that Colt 44. Not unless he wears his Stetson raised to a peak and is cunning and quick with a scar on his cheek. Didn't speak for a while, just cocked back the hammer, and when he did finally say some words with a slight stammer, he said, "My friend, I've been watching you along the Comanches, the Cheyenne and Sioux. I shot the rack to see my aim was true before I finally finished you." I said, "Grant a man one last request." He said, "I won't promise, but I'll do my best." I said, "Is it true?" He stopped and laughed. "Don't tell me it's a treasure, Coyote Pass. Suppose it's a treasure of a kind. It's the sort most men don't usually find. It's treasure that comes from knowing you're the best. If you reach Coyote Pass, you pass the test." He said, "That's the pity about you, son. You see, I am and always will be number one. Now say your prayers and say 'em fast, 'cause you're never gonna reach Coyote Pass."
Hey ho, the West needed winning, there was drinking to do, and the women were sinning. There's a pot of gold over every hill. All you had to do was be the first to kill.
Narrowed his eyes and took careful aim, pointed the muzzle in the region of my brain. But even as his finger tightened on the trigger, a shot rang out and I saw him stagger. Then running toward me came the Indian squaw. Good job she was hot with my Colt 44. Could see from my position he was as dead as a door, but she pumped two more into him just to make sure. There's nothing much more left to say. I never left that spot since that fateful day. Me and the squaw, we settled here. She died in the big freeze late last year. Life goes on and so does death. I'm chained here till my final breath. Anyone should ever have a chance to ask if I accomplish my difficult task, say, listen to the wind blowing in dry grass, 'cause the answer's buried at Coyote Pass.